Hi, I'm Bill Doherty. I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program that's intended to give folks some idea what's going on now, both locally and also regionally. And today I have with me John Kennedy and Cathy
Lynds.
Lynds,
Yes.
okay. Now, John, of course, has just taken over it's less than a year, right?
It's 4 months or so.
4 months ago.
5 months maybe now.
And has taken over the responsibility for being the administrator of the Cape Cod Regional Transportation Authority.
There you go.
And Cathy is just now. How long have you been the COO?
Since December.
Since December.
December.
So all day. Oh, great. So anyway, in the issue of full disclosure, yes, I was on that board a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And at that time, they were doing great things because on Cape Cod, the number one and number two things that comes out of the Cape Cod Commission surveys of what's needed on the Cape has been relief of congestion. So with that, John, I want you to tell me about your vision for the RTA.
So I'm really happy that's where you started off with, because Cathy and the rest of our team might be tired of hearing about this, but it's personal for me. So I have both the professional interest in what we're about to do for Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority, and I also have sort of the personal history. What we provide currently are outstanding transit and bus connections. What we intend to provide very shortly, within a year or so, is an ability to cover the entire Cape, not just with the Transit Authority buses, but with other providers that might be providing duplicative trips to what we're providing, or us with theirs, or even services that don't exist yet. And sort of the term is we're trying to identify service gaps. And in preparation for starting this conversation, you and I already had some discussions about some challenges in this region as well as others, and we can get to that. But the exciting thing is that we've taken over, or since I've been at the helm of the RTA, is that we've taken over an organization that was really in good condition. This isn't, one of those tenement.
I'm going to remake the whole world.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But what we are going to do is we're going to build on the successes, but we're going to take an approach where we want to make sure every doorstep on the Cape, every person on the Cape that needs to move and connect with others at any time of day or night will have that ability. It's a tall task, but we have a lot of good people on the Cape and a lot of stakeholders that would not only find that beneficial, I think it's an economic enabler as well, getting people to work, getting people connected for commerce, but also getting connected socially, right? We learned this, was it yesterday, that the Cape has the largest veteran population in the Commonwealth.
Well, 26,000 veterans.
Oh, of course you know this. That's perfect, Bill. So that's a population that I believe is underserved. There are a lot of good organizations working with them. We have the ability to help with medical trips and other things that either they're not aware of or we're not providing yet. And that's just one sort of example of this greater network we're trying to provide. But the personal side for me is that in 1991, my dad was he was the smartest human being I ever met, self-made, strong, ran the Brooklyn Navy Yard back in New York, had the highest position, civilian position there, started in the mailroom, right? It was my idol. And one day, as an elderly man, he had a stroke and instantly became ridden or wheelchair bound, and needed dialysis 3 days, rehabilitation 3 days, and we struggled to get my dad there, paralyzed on one side, and my mom was elderly, had her little convertible trying to get him, and we found out about what they used to call the B-bus, which is the DART service of what we operate now. Doctors gave him at that point maybe 6 months to live. we think because of the daily, the ease of getting to and from dialysis, getting to and from rehabilitation, but more importantly, the social connections that he was making with drivers and with others getting out of the house, extended his life 16 more years. And so he was able to, have an entirely productive life, but also get the help that he needed. So that's why it's both, professional. There are a lot of things we can see from a professional and business standpoint, the holes that we need to fill, but it's also extremely personal as well.
Well, there has been some conversation and some private bus provision by one of the veterans organizations, and Barbara Ann Foley, I think, is the one that was coordinating that.
Yep.
So there is a continuing need
Yep.
to get from Boston to Providence, from get to Boston to Brockton, to get to Boston for veterans.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that particular piece of it. Yeah, that's great.
Well, we run a daily, weekday Boston hospital service where we take, as many as 22 passengers that are up getting treatments in Boston and medical visits, and then we bring them back in the afternoon for $15 each way, which is about the best deal there is. But we don't do it to the VA hospital in Providence, and we found out that there may be a way for us to either accomplish that ourselves or to partner with one of the other organizations, bus companies, that currently have those routes. So that's an interesting approach to this, is we don't necessarily need to do everything. We don't necessarily have the ability to do that. But there are all of these other operators out there that we may be able to coordinate, so you have one location to figure out what your mobility needs are, and then we would find that almost like a navigator or an ombudsman in the organizations, and be able to provide those. Well,
the thing that's always concerned me is that the RTA is only one piece of the transportation network, and the idea that there is what I'd call substantial coordination among all of these pieces and parts is very important. In other words, does the bus, does the bus get there 10 minutes after the other bus has left, even though it's a different system?
Yeah.
So that that's one of the more important things to, let's say, to somebody who would find it useful. I'd also found out when I used to ride the bus, when I was on that board,
Yep.
was that the bus drivers that you had were just the salt of the earth. They would get out of the bus. They would make sure that people that were handicapped, were assisted in getting in there. And if they didn't show up, they'd go in to find out if there was anything wrong. So it was more than just let's say just a transportation service, as much as it was sort of a supplement for, let's say, emotional needs as well.
Well, as John
Singing
said,
out of our book here, right?
Yeah, the impact that the service had for John's father, the social relationships that he made as part of those trips with the bus drivers as well as the other riders. I mean, you can't take the place of those connections. And our relationships that the bus drivers form every day are still existent with their customers. I mean, it's just amazing. And we gave one bus operator the first annual Extra Mile Tom Care Award, who has gone above and beyond and gets a lot of compliments from customers about how helpful he is when he arrives at their door. He'll help them carry groceries into the house. It's heartwarming, honestly, and it's nice to be a part of that.
And he is so good at what he does. We get 2 or 3 compliments a day on this fella.
Yeah.
We're going to have him come in and do a training for us big shot executives in the office, because he knows more about customer service and kindness than an entire organization knows.
I did, I'd say, not harass, but suggest to other board members during my time that they ride the bus from time to time, because if they're on a transportation board, they should at least have personal experience as to how it works. As I remember, the thing that I saw were a lot of younger fellows that were on, say, struggling through a DUI, and the only way they could get to work, was the bus. And then, of course, during the summertime, there was, a lot of the H2O.
H2O.
Oh,
JB1. J1.
Yeah,
whatever
I
that
know.
is.
H2B,
Okay.
H2B
I know what
and
you're saying.
J1.
See, to get the instead of riding their bicycles, they would take in the transportation. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the routes that you provide. As I mentioned, earlier, congestion is one of the serious problems here in the Cape. So the idea is that how do you figure out which routes you should continue to do, and which kind of routes you should you add? What's your process for that? Have you thought about that?
Bill, you're asking me all the most important questions because when I started and when Cathy came along and Cathy Jensen, who's our deputy administrator, one of the more important things that we started was what we call our service review committee. This is a weekly meeting that we set up with our operating team and with our administrative team, and we include drivers or dispatchers of those kinds of folks with us because they have a lot more information than us, and we blend that, the sort of the anecdotal with the analytics, and we're trying to determine exactly where those service gaps are, but where the need is that people might not even think there's a need yet. So we meet weekly on this. So we're looking at tweaking routes. More importantly, we're looking at the first venture I mentioned, this sort of a transportation ecosystem creation, so that we can identify how to cover every single doorstep with. We have to do it with efficiency because what we spend are public dollars, but what we can partner with others that are privates, they can do some things that we're unable to do. So the Bourne route, since we're talking about Bourne, and also the Sandwich route is an important route that comes in and out of Bourne.
And I've forgotten about Harwich because I lived there for 30 years.
And you know about the H2O and the Flex from living out that way. But we created the Bourne route. When I say we, I was on the operating team as a general manager for 14 years. But we created the Bourne and Sandwich routes that didn't exist as a way of bringing every single town, and an important town like Bourne and Sandwich into the fixed route kind of system. And so starting from scratch, we met with commercial folks, business leaders, some of the political leaders in the town, and tried to establish something that covered in a geographic area really well. Instead of saying I don't think that we did it well enough, I think now the emphasis is on identifying the true stakeholders in those areas. We need to have town support and input, and we need to have the commercial input, but it's the people, the demographic of the region that really matters most. Highly affluent areas are not necessarily looking for fixed route service. The pockets where people are less car dependent or car less need our service. So we're making both the tweaks and then that macro kind of adjustment, which I think it's taking us a while to do because I'm a private sector person where generally, you have the funding, you have the ability, and you have the interest to do it, you do it. But we need to make sure that first, that the dollars are being spent correctly, and second, that we're providing real value to whatever region it is that we're making those adjustments. So Bourne and Sandwich routes in particular I think they cover in a geographic area really well, but I think from a demographic standpoint and from a headway standpoint, it needs to be changed. Plus, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but our Smart Dart service that we have that acts like sort of like an Uber and Lyft, that's demand driven, can operate with ease anywhere. And this might be a region where we have less on the fixed route side and far more on that very convenient way to ride hail your own small vehicle.
But in addition, I just wanted to add to what John is saying is that we're also working closely with the Cape Cod Commission and determining where the housing developments are going and how can we change our routes to serve those people. And it's working with the businesses in the areas and determining, you know, the number of employees that they have, who's taking their car, who is in need of transit, and just working in partnership with the Cape Cod Commission
Good
and
point.
trying to fulfill the needs going forward.
You made it, was it the Regional Transportation Plan had just been updated within the last couple of months, I think.
Yes.
Okay, and I would hope that you would have significant input for something like that.
Yes.
We do. We have representation on that board, on that group, but we're, right now, we'll be spending a lot more time with our partners at the Cape Cod Commission, and with the Chamber for that matter, to have even more influence on how those dollars are spent and what services are really needed.
Well, fortunately, Paul Neswicki, who used to run the Cape Cod Commission,
Good fellow.
is
Right.
now, you know, is taking his information from a nonprofit into the
Yeah.
private sector, and of course he's luxuriating in the fact that he's reduced the regulatory oversight, which is also, you know, one of the necessary but
Huge.
impediments, let's say, to sometimes to moving things quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just met with Paul and his team on these specific initiatives. And we're congruent in what we want to see, as well as the commission is, you know, we're connected at the hip.
Well, Christy Sanatori, you know, really has her handle on what's going on over
Yeah,
there.
and
So
how.
there's no doubt in my mind that the kind of people that we have in place for these services are really, you know, are going to get the job done. Now, I haven't talked to you a little bit about what exactly, so folks would know, what exactly does a COO do? Or have you figured that out yet?
Well, I've only been there for how many months? Since December. There's a lot that we want to focus on to improve transit throughout the region. And I would have to say it's a jack of all trades position.
More
It's
so than mine, even,
working
yeah.
with operations and looking at the services that we have, trying to figure out how we can provide services a little more efficiently. It's, you know, implementing his vision to improve transportation throughout the region.
Our vision, by the way, not his. It's
Yes,
our
I know,
vision.
that's correct, I know.
Good choice.
He is very good like
good
that.
pickup.
There's a team, and developing a team to move forward and really be committed to improving transportation for all on the Cape.
So, see, if I recall correctly, a CEO would have everything besides the broom all the way up to, let's say, the power of the purse, as far as, you know, these people are making a contribution and these people aren't. So, you know, there's all of that part of it. Okay, so you've got an operational part. How many people work for the RTA?
So we really have two separate components. One is the administration, and we work primarily out of the Transportation Center in Hyannis. There's about a dozen or so of us. And then we have the operating team that we oversee. The operating team has about 175 employees. Those are the folks that operate the buses, take the calls, you know, handle payroll and things for their team. They are fantastic at what they do. That's where I spent my 14 years prior to taking this position, was running that operation. So it's maybe about 180, 185, somewhere in that neighborhood of employees that are providing all of this transportation. We have about 150 vehicles that we use to provide it as well. Yeah.
Well, one of the things you haven't mentioned is some of the ancillary services. You know, for example, my Charlie card. I got my Charlie card with my my senior citizen status on it. Of course, I can add money to it when I take the train, and I have the habit of going into Boston and going as far as Braintree and then taking a T from there.
Yeah.
First of all, on the weekend it's $3 as opposed to let's see, something like about $40 to park in Boston.
Yeah.
So that alone makes it, makes financial good sense. But I don't know if folks know that they can get a Charlie card in Hyannis, or can they anymore?
Well, I have news for you. Your Charlie card, in particular, is no longer any good. All of our fixed routes are now free.
That's riding on your RTA here.
Yes.
I'm talking about going,
Oh, you're talking about if you need it upstream in Boston.
Yeah,
if you,
right, yeah. Can
so
you still get that over there?
that's a good question. I don't know that we're providing those cards anymore. We were, and we had for years because we used the same fare system.
Yeah.
But we completely obliterated that fare system and got rid of it because it's free. So I don't think we have the ability
I don't think that we
so
know
my
that.
card-
to create your card for you in Boston. But that may be something we might want to keep if there's
Well, that's all part of the overall coordination.
Yeah.
In order to, let's say, in order to have that, let's say, interconnectivity among all of the regional transportation needs.
Yeah.
Although the only time I do go over the bridge to go to Boston is to go to a play or to, or to the opera.
Oh yeah, nice.
I go off for the same reasons, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I go off for other reasons too.
Well, let's see, they had doing the Song of the Earth on Saturday, up in South Boston, which is really, having grown up in South, I was saying, oh my God,
Yeah.
opera comes to South Boston.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
What would be next?
We just saw Hadestown up there too. Yeah, what a great place.
So let's get back to what is the most heavily traveled route on the Cape right now? The one you have the most use of.
Yeah. So we really have three that vie for that. And unfortunately, it's not the Bourne. But so we have, and it depends on seasonality as well, because in the height of the summer, the Provincetown and Flex route that we have is just loaded. But it's the H2O, the Sea Line, which comes out of Falmouth to Hyannis, and the Flex route, of course. And they sort of are the three big ones. Now, if there's a way we could figure out how to get Bourne and Sandwich on that sort of a level, we would. But I think we're going to do it more with making adjustments to like Smart Dart and other things to make sure that region is well served. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think he's correct. I mean, the seasonality of Provincetown and the Lower Cape is has a lot of ridership.
So if you don't go over the bridge that often, how often do you get up to the end of the Cape?
On Provincetown?
Yeah.
Well, because when my wife was alive, we used to get up there about once every other week.
Yeah.
It was
Great.
mainly you avoid the trap at Ernie's, on the way going down there, or actually on the way coming back. But other than that, we'd get down there on Saturdays because I absolutely hated doing any yard work, and I'd always
It's a good way out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way out of it was to say, I think I hear the call of the wild for lunch. We'd go down there and we had a condo stool, I think at Lobster Pot or something like that, where my wife used to like to have golden margaritas and,
It's an
and
institution.
seafood linguine that they had down there. But that was another life.
Yeah.
At another time.
But you know that in the off season it's a wonderful community, but in the height of the season, it's just exponentially explodes with population.
And the thing is, if it wasn't for there was an initial connection between a campground where a lot of the a lot of the Jamaicans were staying. It was serving the needs of the Provincetown community, and if that wasn't there, I don't know how that would have would have made a connection as far as supporting that need.
So that's a really unique thing to that area, right? The campgrounds, and you have annual visitors that have RVs and stay there, but it's also where a lot of the J1s. That was the term we were looking for before. A lot of the J1 seasonal employees reside there as well. So our buses hit a half a dozen of those major campgrounds all summer long, which is why that route just overpopulates instantly. And that's where you have standing room only, right up until 1 o'clock in the morning. You know?
Well, one of the things that I'd seen, because I had made it a habit of taking public transportation when I traveled, and I was very impressed with two of the places. One was Portland, Oregon, where everything let's say within a like a 1 mile radius of the center core city was free.
Yeah.
Okay, in order to get people out of their cars and moving back and forth, and also reduce congestion downtown. And then there was in Kansas City, they had both express and local driving, and also in Portland, they had special racks so they could put more than two bikes on the front of the vehicle. They had I don't know. They still have the what do you call it, the trailer.
So that, for some reason, didn't take off. That was
It didn't. No.
that was attempted 10 years ago, maybe.
A little longer ago than that.
Yeah, we could take like 20 bikes, but we upgraded to 3 bikes now.
Okay.
We can put on the front of the bus, and they're quite often full. But the trailer, for whatever reason, did not take off.
Well, I guess what I want to find out is whether or not there's any appetite for having combined express and local transportation. So, with that, we actually come to the end of this. So, what I always ask guests to tell me, what kind of takeaway do you want folks to have from this program?
Well, so I'm glad we should invite Bill to our service meetings, because you're asking the same questions of the conversations we're having.
I was on your board.
But I know, a much higher position than I have now. So takeaway is that we're really, really trying to become not a transit company itself. I think Steve Tupper said it in one of our meetings from the commission, said, you guys shouldn't be a transit company. He's absolutely right. What we should be doing is providing service, connection. In some cases, our drivers, as you know, are, especially on the DART, they're almost like psychologists and social workers, because they're engaging. The kind of organization we should be all of those things, but we should be able to be thinking past just rubber tire transit and bringing people to dialysis or to Boston for the opera or for VA hospitals. That's what we should be thinking all the time. And we should be a kind organization. That's what we ought to be.
And you were, and I'm sure you are. So with that, I want to thank the viewers for taking the time to find out more about the Regional Transportation Authority that serves not just the Upper Cape, but the whole Cape. And if you want to spend the time, you can actually go from Woods Hole to Provincetown, taking the RTA, and it's a wonderful thing to have, and you should make some effort to use it. And by the way, what does it cost to take a ride?
Well, it's free on the and that's the takeaway on the fixed routes. All of them are free all day, every day. And if you take the dialer ride, the DART, $3. If you're of 60 and older and you have some disability, it's half that.
And there you go.
And $3 for Smart DART.
Okay. And so there's the opportunity. There's a wonderful value that you have here in the Cape, and it's ready to serve you right now. And all you have to do is go on their webpage, and you can figure out when the bus is going to go by your house. So with that, thank you very much for coming, and this has been a production of Born TV.